Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Well, we opened the show with the well-considered thoughts of none other than Nigeria's number 4 political office holder and Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, regarding Nigeria's rising external debt profile. According to a message delivered on his behalf earlier this week by House Leader Julius Ihombere at the 11th Annual Conference of the West Africa Association of Public Accounts Committees in Abuja, Speaker Abbas emphasized that Nigeria's debt-to-GDP ratio had hit 52%, exceeding the legal ceiling of 40%. And so, how concerned should the rest of Nigerians be in the face of this discouraging information? To help out, we are now being joined here on the morning show by Dr. Boniface Chizea, who is a renowned economist, financial analyst, economist, and business development consultant. So good to have you back here. It's been a long time. Welcome back. Good morning, sir.
It's been a long time, you know.
Very well.
You've been away too yourself. Well, she's one that's not too familiar
She's
to
usually,
me.
Well, you're in great hands with this one.
Yes.
So, we've been talking about Honorable Tajuddin Abbas's comments, and we've discussed that how on its face, before he made the clarification, what he was saying was actually quite true, that this should be a cause for concern. And while we understand the context of where these comments were made, he was talking to other parliamentarians, other people in the business of looking at public debt. It seems as though these comments found themselves out into the wider media, and that forced him to clarify. But really, his initial comments are really what we need to focus on. When we're looking at Nigeria's debt profile, it is a cause for concern. How should Nigerians be receiving this information?
Well, first of all, I think we need to sympathize with the speaker. I'm sure that paper was written and put out, and the content, he wasn't too familiar with the content. and then you put a professor, to go and represent you. So I think that so what he's doing, he's fighting a rear guide battle, to see how he can, retrieve the situation, change the situation. He's not the first person from the National Assembly to cry out. Senator Ndume is also on record. I mean, he's forever complaining about what goes on. And he did say, as I watched him in one interview, he did say that others feel the same. Other members feel the same, but they're not as courageous. And also he's a bit different. So I think that, so what's happening, what they've said is correct. Yeah. If you look at the details of the loans we've taken, some of us are alarmed. P2B is also on record to have said that the way we are going, very soon, by the end of this year, we'll be headed to 200 trillion. So it was 121 last year. So today, by this time, first quarter of this year, we're at about 150. It's 149.3. It's about 150. So what is disturbing about the whole thing is that we are borrowing and we're not keeping to the terms. We have a Fiscal Responsibility Act that says, this is what we should do when we borrow. So we have guidelines. So when people are saying we are going to reform borrowing, we're going to revisit, no. The thing is, we should keep to the laws that's been approved, that's been established, and we're not keeping to it. We are supposed to borrow for capital expenditure, human development, so health, education, and so on and so forth. And if you look at the list of the borrowings that have been listed, you don't have to be an economist to know that it's going to be difficult to track. And so if you say you borrowed money, to alleviate the pains of suffering because of subsidy removal, how do you track that? They've not come out with detailed program to say this and this and this will be what we're going to use with this money. So they must say so. And you look at the other details, that are out there. It's obvious. You cannot track them. And obviously, National Assembly that should be involved in this borrowing, apparently, they've not been involved. Tajuddin Abbas in his paper said that as much. So there's breach all over the place. I mean, you talk about long-term expenditure program, and it's included there, but not the details. Even if the figures are put there, and we're talking of $9.something billion. I think that's a lot of money. Dangote refinery is about $25 billion. So to put it in context, so I think that there is cause for worry, and it's more so because these monies are being taken, and we probably will start paying maybe 20, 30 years from now. Yeah. And so we are
borrowing
we are
money.
tying, we're tying the coming generation.
Yes.
So there are sorts of challenges. So it has definitely cause for worry, and I think that we'll probably unpack that as we go on.
Definitely, as you said, we're mortgaging the future of Nigerian children today with the money that we are borrowing.
Yeah.
Well, you spoke about the National Assembly, and very interestingly enough, there was a leaked group chat recently of members of the National Assembly saying they're suffering because they have been because of the budget implementation, right? And they said that contractors are not being paid, the constituency projects are not being funded, and that they're suffering, and half of them didn't go home during legislative break. Was the context of this conversation. But also importantly, the Minister of Finance, Wale Edun, has come out to say that there's no plan for a supplementary budget for 2025, because right now we're concurrently running 3 budgets. And they've said that 80% of the 2024 budget has been achieved as of September 2025. But, we've been talking about this, and even when we're speaking about these budgets, the multiple budgets, the borrowing, as you said, the fact that it's hard to track. Earlier we spoke about the $1.5 billion for conditional cash transfers. How do you track that 70 million Nigerians received cash, right? But I want us to also talk about debt servicing. Because quite often, right now, we have African leaders like Obasanjo who are going around asking for debt forgiveness from these multilateral corporations and from foreign powers. Do you feel that sometimes people owe not just because they're tossing the bill down the line to the future, but also because they want African leaders to go back again to beg for debt forgiveness? I
was going to say that some people are lending them this money. And they must know they don't have a best interest at heart. Those are the facts. People, IMF and World Bank, and they sit there and lend these monies to us. And they look, I don't know, because that must be a procedure. So if they have an interest at heart, they have to be very careful about granting these monies. But I think that there's a cause for us to worry. I think the point you referred to earlier is that what did you say? It was before I went into this. That's the point you raised
about mortgaging our future, about the conditional cash transfers.
Yeah, conditional cash transfers. You can't track them also because even in Nigeria we don't have an acceptable and recognized register of those who got this money, and that's why most of the humongous, stealing of money has happened, over the period. And the last person that was there, so much money was transferred monies, to private accounts and so on and so forth. Yes, transferred to the private accounts. So it's been happening because those are areas where you can take monies, and it's going to be difficult to pin down how that money was spent. So I think that's a big challenge.
How troubling is it that most of our money is going towards debt servicing, though?
Okay, I think that's the point I was trying to get at. Debt servicing before this time we were talking about almost 90%. If we are going to keep fidelity, and one of the problems we have is that the facts we get in terms of what we are told and what goes on, there's a trust deficit. So you have to take things with a pinch of salt. So you have a situation that you have on hands as it is today, and then you know that people are not putting things on the table for us to see. And so even when you actually know that we're using 80% or 90%, to service our debts, because when you talk of physical sustainability, essentially you're talking about how much of your revenue goes into debt servicing. So that's what the challenge, but what it is now, they're not putting it out. The Minister of Finance talks about what is going on. But before in this country, we used to have BDR, briefing on the budget and so on and so forth. Now we don't now seem to be having that. So everything is like everything's in opaque. We don't know what's happening. Now these monies are coming in, and then nobody knows. Nobody can vouch for how this money is being spent. And that's what is very important. Now, we have lots of challenges. You have power supply. 2 days ago, we had a grid collapse, grid collapse. If you get this money and we say, look, let's improve the power supply in this country, how to boost productivity. So the worry, and also when you look at the integrity, I'm sorry to use that word, of those who are in leadership, then there's much more cause to worry, because then there's a feeling that this money is being diverted. let's call it a spade by its name. So I think that's exactly what is happening. And what are we going to do? The National Assembly comes and talks about reforms. And so that means that they are beginning to feel it. They are beginning to feel that they are handicapped. But then it shouldn't be so, because they have statutorily, they have a responsibility to play in this respect. So if you don't have asked and say they are complicit, so we'll talk about state capture, and so on and so forth. So different segments of state have been hijacked and so on and so forth, and they are not doing what they're supposed to do, and that's what is staring us on the face.
All of this is so confusing. I always want to consider what every person, and I actually hate the term of every Nigerian on the street as like a reflective of people who aren't learned or anything like that, but I always like to make sure that no one is really excluded from these types of conversations, because the question I have is really who should Nigerians believe? Because it was just last month, I believe it was Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala was commending President Tinubu for his economic reforms. And this is somebody who is, of course, the leader of the World Trade Organization, a former finance minister herself, someone who is well educated, well learned, well respected, that her words mean a lot. So when you may not have the economic prowess, you don't have an economics degree, but when you hear someone like that commend the president and say he's doing a great job, it does make for people to believe that perhaps things aren't as bad as we're hearing. But just this week, when we are looking at this conversation, actually they are quite serious. So my question to you is, who should Nigerians believe, and where can they get reputable information from? Because it just seems as though information is always being politicized.
Well, I think that we have to empathize. So you're going to see the president and so on and so forth. She needs to be looking for something good to say. But the fact of the matter is that the decisions that we took, removing the subsidy, trying to float exchange rate, they are decisions that have been there for a long time. And various administrations have come, and they didn't have the courage to take those decisions, because the consequences is staring us on the face. It's obvious. They all knew that it's going to heighten hardship in the land, and that's exactly what we're getting. So it's not, that's why they come so easy. Yes, it's easy to come say yes. Everybody wants market determined exchange rates and so on and so forth. But do you have a market in dollars in Nigeria? And then everybody that does business in Nigeria demands. So the demand is insatiable, and then the supply is limited. And so once you did that, what's happened now was bound to happen. And when you remove subsidy, fuel price, it cuts across the system. And so that's what is happening. So it's not just a thing, but there was courage, like the president did say that it wasn't in his text. He was overwhelmed, by the excitement of the moment when he was making his speech, the acceptance speech and so on. And then he just said, subsidy is gone. And then even when that happened, what then followed was that then there should have been a backup plan. So how do we now manage? So this is going to happen. So what are we going to do? And so there was so implementation was an issue. So yes, when you took, it's been hanging, and people didn't have the courage to take those decisions. And so, yes, on paper, yes, that's the right decision to take. But then there are also issues with implementation. How did we implement it? How did we look for cushioning effect, palliatives, and so on? And then do we, like what's happening now, we're doing it, we're not doing it in a systematic, organized way, where you put mass transit in place and so on, so that the poor people that are going to suffer. And so even up to now, there's been no coordinated, what's happening is that, really, I said to people, the way it was going before, if it went on that way, the bottom could have fallen off this economy by now. So I think they had to call to order, and this is what was happening. They stared them on the face, and there was a rallying around to say, look, this can't go on like that. Or if it went on like that, what happened in Nepal could have happened much earlier here. And I think that Nepal experience, people should begin to borrow some sense. That's a
very borrow money, but we should borrow sense.
Let's borrow some sense, because Nigerians cannot. You get push to the wall and there's hunger and you don't have any alternative. Then you might have it here, and it's going to be explosive. We pray it doesn't happen.
I pray it doesn't happen too. I pray it doesn't happen. Some of the images I saw were absolutely terrifying. But you spoke about this subsidy is gone. But there is an argument out there that we stopped subsidizing petrol for poor people and we're now subsidizing the political class because we have seen some of the largest budgets for political appointees that we have ever seen. We have seen their convoys. We've seen the new planes. We've seen the FAC allocations who are going to the governors who now have even bigger budgets. So subsidy is no longer reaching poor Nigerians, definitely, but also it seems that it's reaching the political class. But if we're talking about
You didn't talk about the salary increase.
The salary increase too. You see, the political class is subsidized, but the rest of us were tightening our belts. The rest of us are tightening our belts. Every day we're tightening our belts. But in the middle of this belt tightening, something interesting is happening. The 5% fuel tax. Because people say if we can't collect loans, then we have to raise revenue. But the other people are saying that the only way of them revenuing is taxing. They'll soon tax the air we breathe. Or as Senator Dino Mulai said, he said they will soon go and ask OPay for loan. So if we're not taking loan, we have to raise our revenue. But it seems the only way of the government is raising revenue is taxing everything we do. The water we drink, the fuel we're putting in our car. Very soon, as I said, maybe the air we breathe. So how do we raise revenue without causing even more hardship on the Nigerian people?
Well, let me say that this government has to be sensitive. There's hardship in the land, and within 2 years, if elections are going to be properly done, this government would not come back. Obvious. It's not too worry about that. But so they have to be very careful. So to raise revenue, we have just had tax reform. And I should have thought that the essence of the tax reform would be because it's not just paying tax. What's happened in Nigeria all this while is that the tax net would not deepen the tax net. And so people who should pay tax have not been paying tax. Now, there are so many bloated market women out there, who should be paying tax, and they're not paying. And what about even when the money comes in? What about leakages? What about corruption? I saw an estimate that says that it's about $18 billion a year is lost due to corruption. And nobody, we want to fight corruption, and nobody has been indicted, nobody has been sent to jail. I read something in the social media yesterday. There's one Robert Fernandez, who used to be a senator. They sent him to jail for 11 years. And what brought that up was the wife was just recently, she had some issues with cancer until she didn't stand a trial with the husband, but she was an accessory to the crime. I mean, the Egyptians were bribing her husband. They just sentenced her to 4.5 years. And I was with lawyers, Catholic lawyers yesterday. I was saying to them, have you seen any person in Nigeria? Have you seen any senator, any minister?
We have gone to jail.
Gone to jail?
Yes, we have. We have 2 governors. Were
they locked in and so on?
Well, they allegedly were locked in. 2 governors. They asked for clemency under Buhari's
Okay. And they were released. Yes. Okay.
We also had the member of the House of Representatives who famously was found guilty of trying to collect bribe money from Femi Otedola.
Okay. Well, those are so few and far between. What happened to Yahya Bello? You see.
Not a white lion.
The last time we saw in the press, he was marrying his 3rd wife. Yes.
And trying to travel outside of
Nigeria. And they were trying to stop him, and so on, trying to deny him from traveling. So I think that, yes, okay. So when you were saying that, I recall one of them is Taraba, former Taraba governor also, that and he was there for a short while, and never spent what the time was supposed to spend there. But there must be sanctity of sanctions, consequences. That's exactly, Nigerians are not different from other people. And what is making the situation different is the fact that we don't have the fact that when you do this and you're caught, now this will be the consequences. That's just the difference, and that's why we're not different. If Nigerians go overseas, they don't behave any differently. So if you're told you shouldn't drink and drive, and you should do that, once something happens to you and you are caught, consequences will follow. your license should be endorsed, and then you pay higher insurance and so on and so forth. If you're not careful, you can even be stopped from driving, and nobody's going to stop it. But but in Nigeria, it's all this. It's like it's a sin that is very difficult to, and that's the issue we have.
I mean, the economy definitely informs people's political choices, and we are, of course, fast approaching 2027. It feels as though, I believe it was you, we were speaking about this together the last time we were on a trip, and you were talking about how it seems as though politicians spend so much time once they are elected, making sure they stay elected, that there's almost little to no time for the actual governance, right?
Yeah.
So when people are preparing their minds to get ready for a political campaign season, definitely it is the economy that informs a lot of their choices. Now, sure, we've had a shift in presidency in terms of we had Buhari, we now have Bola Ahmed Tinubu, but they are members of the same political party. So when we are looking ahead to 2027, what do you think people who care about the economy should be expecting to hear, which would allow them to make the correct decision for Nigeria when it comes to choosing who should be in charge of our economy come 2027?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. Essentially what's happening is that all this money is not all is being misappropriated, I must tell you. But, they are being misdirected and being spent. They've done some calculation, like you did say, and all the thinking is about 2027. And so if the president goes to Taraba State, I listen to the governor talk about praising him for the things he's done for them, the roads and so on and so forth. The roads have been there for a long time. Nobody did it. And so as far as they are concerned, they are sold on Tinubu. So everything that's happened, everything that people are doing now is because of 2027. So that this the urgency, to make sure that they get re-elected. Okay, so what concern most of us should have is that when they are even re-elected and they go into second term, what then would happen? Because you see, with all this, what you're seeing now, we are still having lots of issues. So the president goes all over the place, goes on vacation and so on, and then the appointments he makes and so on is so sectional. If you just remove the fact that statutorily ministers have to, each state has to be represented, the Federal Executive Council. Now, all the key agencies and so on, the appointments, even Southwest are saying it's only Lagos boys.
Allegedly.
So I think those are the challenges. Yeah. So it's of concern. And people have said, look, because of this, should we now move on to a one-term presidency? So make it 6 years. So that's the challenges. But the most important thing is that we need to clean up our electoral process. We need to make INEC truly independent. We need to make sure that our votes will count. And once our votes count, and those people voted for are those who come to power, then the journey, we're on the journey. And Nigeria is not so complicated. We need somebody else who is not corrupt, very corrupt. We need somebody who has a vision for Nigeria, who wants to leave some legacy, who wants to alleviate, so who has some empathy for the people. My people are suffering all over the place. If you go outside Lagos and see the enormity of suffering our people are going through, you must be concerned. And so you need somebody who has that, who's not just thinking about just me, myself, and I. Yeah. So that's the challenge.
Thank you very much. I think you really
you've said the quiet part out loud.
Yes, you have. Yeah. You really have. And just before we go, because as you said, we're in politicking season towards 2027. Of course, when the president came to the National Assembly, he told everyone, "No, I'm sure they will be part of the 11th Assembly." And also, that's just part of why some of the members of the House of Representatives were unhappy, because they said that not going to be able to get re-elected if they don't do constituency projects.
so it's all about me. Yes, myself.
At the end of the day.
Yes.
We need this constituency project, otherwise I will not be able to come back because I have nothing to show for the work that I've done. But, Adefemi has said, we've been talking about the politics of the economy and how it looks. I want to ask, actually, is there anything that you have seen from this present administration that does inspire hope?
The Central Bank. I think Cardoso is doing a good
Cardi
job.
B. Shout out to my boy Cardi B.
I hope you listen to this because I think Cardoso is doing a good job. I think that everybody, it's a common knowledge that the corruption in the central bank is almost over. So it's important. It's important to put this on the table. So I think that people say, I've had not more than one person say that we do not go to get foreign exchange and you don't have to know somebody or pay some fees, to get the money. So I think that we have a thorough professional at central bank, and we hope the system will not overwhelm him, and that he will continue on the track which is set for himself. So I think that, and the president himself is going like that to say, look, now you can get your foreign exchange without. He's also singing about it. So we need more of such people who have personal integrity, who have a name to protect. So we need more of such appointees. So I think I can single out Governor of Central Bank as someone. It's like the shining light, shining star in the dark firmament.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chizea, it's always good to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Oh gosh, it seems that the time just run away from us all, isn't it?
I know.